And welcome back. That is Monday nights, Ball Don't Lie, 9 p.m.
Great song.
with the sports reporter without pay, Ray Lynn. Okay, Mike, you wanted an opportunity. Take your time, sir.
Yeah, no, here's the two things. I see what Ray's saying. Everybody's talking about winning percentage, but that's my point with ties. Okay, we're all playing this out. Like I said to John, if I believe, and I would pick Cincinnati anyway to beat them, because even if, like I said, if Lamar can play, you got to play him before the playoffs, John. Even like Eric said, if you're getting beat, if it's just for a half, you got to get you. You shake your head, John. He comes back for the playoffs. They're going to get killed in the first round. I don't care if it's a home game or an away game. They're going to get boated because it's the first round of the playoffs. So
Ain't no
if
guarantee in that.
if we come to this point where, say, it lines up like this, right? Say Jared Stidham says, "Oh, you saw me put up 400 against the best defense in the league, 375. You saw me bomb it to Devontae Adams there. Oh, Kansas City, look what I'm going to do to your defense." Now, I'm not saying it happens, Eric, but I'm just saying, what do the Raiders have to play for except ruining Kansas City's season? Which, if you know that rivalry, they would love to ruin the Chiefs' season. So if the Chiefs lose, the Raiders win, and yeah, I know playing the if game and the rhyme on that, but the Chiefs would fall to 13-4. The Bills win, they go to 13-3. If to everybody's point, because since a tie is an option, which we all know, if they give those two teams a tie after they won, percentage point wise, because Buffalo still has the head-to-head against Kansas City, right? As I recall, They smacked them around a little bit, right? Yeah, and so does Cincinnati. So if Cincinnati and Buffalo win, Kansas City loses, which, again, the Raiders have nothing to play for except ruining the Chiefs getting the number one seed, which they would love to do. So don't tell me they're not going to ball out, or try to ball out at least, because some guys like Josh Jacobs, who is getting paid next year, I don't know by who, but probably not the Raiders, but he's getting paid like we talked about earlier, Eric, next year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Raiders to beat the Chiefs. And if they do that, and Buffalo and Cincy both win, and you give them ties, because everybody's cool with a tie since it's an option, right? Can't give them wins because two teams can't win. Fine. Give them ties, because percentage point wise, that's a win for them. So if all that happens, Buffalo still gets the number one seed. To my point then with the tie, John, Cincinnati would be the number 2 seed, right?
All that matters is Buffalo wins this Sunday.
No, the easy. Okay, so all this back and forth, percentages, all that, when in reality, all they got to do is just play Cincy and Buffalo either Sunday or Monday night and push week 18 to next week.
But Megan, the NFL, 100% agree with you. But what I'm saying, my point to that is the NFL gets off the hook if they both win this weekend, their week 18 game, and then Kansas City loses. No, I mean, the South, who cares, right? Because whoever wins that, I shouldn't say who cares. Yes, Jacksonville beat the Cowboys. Fine. I'm not running away from that. But if Cincinnati loses, well, they beat Kansas City head to head, Ray. So I'm sorry. Like to Megan's point, do you care about this? It's an extenuating circumstance. It's not about, and again, and I tongue in cheek, I shouldn't say everybody gets a trophy, but if Cincinnati wins this week, gets a tie from that game, and Buffalo does the same thing, everybody's okay with it, because again, it is about DeMar and what they went through. So they hold the tiebreaker over Kansas City. So
it's extenuating circumstances. Everybody has to be willing to give a little to get through this, for the game, for the league. That's what it is. And so some people are going to be on the short end of the stick of this, but you know who's really on the short end of the stick of this? DeMar.
Right. 100%. And the Bills, the organization in and of itself. I mean,
both those teams, right? Yeah, those are the teams that are really the ones on the short end of the stick, because T. Higgins' head is messed all the way up right now.
And we didn't even get into that. Yeah,
we ain't even get into the skipping Shannon.
No, we're not. No, you know what?
I just said we didn't get into it. That's all I said.
John, I appreciate that, and John is like, your new nickname for 2023 is button pusher, because that's what you're doing. And I understand it. And more times than not, John, I would definitely, especially after what I saw today, John, I would go down that rabbit hole with you. But there is something very much more of a priority than dealing with that. And that is the health, that is the recovery, and that is the prayers and the love for Damar Hamlin. But trust me, my brother, at some point, John Shear, that conversation,
This panel needs to go get
that
skip.
rant,
Yeah.
we might have to bring back the smoking section, as our man Denzel said. We might have to
It's-
bring back a smoking section for that one particular topic.
It's
But
been a minute since we smoking section. It's been a minute.
as for right now, we're not going to do it. Stick a pin in it, like I say, because we will talk about that. All I'm saying is I made my case on a rant a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I have left it alone. I have talked about it with all of you behind closed doors because that's what we do. We family. At some point, though, you are correct, sir. It will get discussed. Okay. Before we get out of here tonight, I want to give each of us an opportunity to really just embrace the fact that the NFL season is going to move forward. We don't know what the case is going to be with regards to this Sunday or this Saturday. But I want to ask each one of you one thing before we get out of here tonight. We've already talked about what we want to do. But with regards to Damar Hamlin, with regards to the protocols that are in place with the NFL for situations such as this, be it something as simple as a groin injury or, to a concussion, to what we saw Monday night. If you are in the front office of the NFL, what would you do to amend, to fix, to protect not only the integrity of the game, but the longevity of these players? And I will go first, and then I will ask each one of you to give me your final thought on this. So for me, and I had this conversation last night on my man Jarrell's journal, when he asked me the question about what would be next, I couldn't really give him an answer because I didn't know. Because as people have seen, we've never seen something like this. What I will say to you is this. I implore the NFL to come out of their pockets and take care of those NFL veterans who played in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, who are finding it difficult to get medication, who are finding it difficult to live what a lot of us are blessed to call a normal life. So I am asking the NFL, I am asking the NFLPA, the Roger Goodells of the world, the DeMaurice Smiths of the world, the Troy Vincents of the world, figure out how to take care of the brothers who made this game the global icon, billion-dollar industry that it is. Because it's the sweat, blood, and tears off of their backs why we enjoy the game as much as we do. That is what I'm saying needs to happen. I'm going to go to John Shear next.
Yeah, I completely agree on, they need to make sure they take care of, first and foremost, make sure you take care of the players that made this game what it is. And without those players, this game doesn't exist. And you should be taking care of them. They should be taken care of for life. They should never have to worry about, kind of like a president, has has bodyguards and stuff like that after they're done being president. Well, these players should be taken care of too. Like they made your game. Like without them, you don't have a game. You don't have all this money. Like, so you should take care of them. You should also take the concussions more serious. I mean, you see the Tua thing against the Bengals. Then you see Teddy Bridgewater, who didn't get a concussion, in the Jets game, but they yank him off the field because they overreact, with the head stuff. So they're just like, well, Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. Then you see Devontae Parker shaking his head and woozy, in a game later in the season, and the spotter doesn't somehow catch that when he's wobbly as anything and he doesn't know where he's at. Like, it just needs to be consistent with these head injuries. And when you see guys wobble, spotter needs to do a better job of calling it in. Like, I don't know who's looking. I don't know how many spotters there are. If it's just one spotter, like looking at all the games, I'm not sure how all that works exactly, but like they need to be able to, look at and see these injuries, a lot faster from the spotter wherever they're at in the spotting, because we see too many times on TV guys just stand wobble and shaking their head, and then they shake it off and they go and play. It's like, no, like if you see that, and we saw earlier in the season, forgive me, I forget what player it was, but tried to go back on the field, and the other player was like, no, like you're not going on the field. You need to stay on the side. They need to check on you. And so that type of stuff needs to happen more often. We need to see the NFL actually care about it, and players like step up, not be afraid to step up and just say, you need to get out of the game, Devontae Parker or whoever. Like we need to see more of that in the NFL, in my opinion. And the helmets too, like for the quarterbacks with these concussions, like they all need to be, I think, wearing those helmets to help prevent the concussions. They all need to, I think, be wearing them.
All right. So, Mike, I'm going to go to you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Ditka was yours and John's point, Eric. Mike Ditka was a huge proponent of that for years, talking about these veteran players and, saying that medically it's ridiculous that as much as the NFL grew, that you couldn't take care of them medically. They shouldn't have to pay for a doctor's appointment. Mike Ditka is not saying, new NFL, give them money because, not just because they played in the league, but they made, bad financial decisions or they did, bad business deals. They're saying, but medically, these guys need that treatment and they can barely afford to get it. And, then you talk about getting addicted to, drugs just to numb the pain. And it's sad. I mean, Mike Ditka, like I said, was a proponent. And when the Super Bowl was here in Phoenix in Glendale in 07, Eric, I mean, I actually got to talk to Mike Ditka for a few minutes. And that's actually how our conversation started when I met him. Cause I just said, man, what you're doing for vets. And I mean, he was on TV, he had a success. I mean, yeah, he's a character, but at the same time, a successful coach, a player. I mean, in the NFL, basically for over 50 years. I mean, between playing, coaching, assistant coaching, he was pushing for that. Not that others weren't, but I mean, he had no problem putting his name to it. Like you say, Eric, you had no problem finding him when he wanted to talk about that. So, I mean, that needs to be done. John, to answer your question, the independent physicians are actually at every stadium. So that was part of the CTE settlement when the NFL paid out to those veterans and those players suffering from CTE after that huge lawsuit. They went with independent physicians, but they're at every game. Like the team has to hire the independent physician, or has to approve of, sorry, not hire, because they don't work for the team. There's no working for the team. It's somebody outside of it. So they're at every game to answer that to you. But yeah, I mean, players need to police themselves. It's one of those things where they need to police themselves. And I'm with you. I mean, but no more needs to be done for veterans. But, and John, to piggyback off what you said too, Eric, I'll wrap it up on this. More needs to be done when they're in the game. I mean, I remember, Eric, one of the toughest guys, and I told you this a million times, Hines Ward. Once they started changing the strike zone on where you could hit receivers, he's like, man, don't hit me in my knees. Hit me in my chest. When he would get hurt, if he said, and he said this, and this is, John, this is the scary part to your point, protecting them from themselves. Hines Ward said in multiple interviews, if he was on the visitor's side and he got hurt, even if he felt like he a little hazy, he would grab his knee or his ankle. So they wouldn't even start looking at his head. You want him to look at his leg to stay in the game. I mean, that's protecting you from yourself, John, and to your point. So he said if he was just a little fuzzy, if he could hide it, he would grab his leg. So they need to protect themselves, you're right, from themselves. But, I mean, for veterans, Eric, you said it the best, man. Like, they should never be paying for anything medical, ever. It's a $15 billion industry, the NFL.
Listen, Megan, I saved you for last because, well, first and foremost, you're our queen. And secondly, as someone who's in the field and sees this, maybe not to this degree, but you see and deal with this type of stuff more than the three of us do. I wanted you to end the night by just giving your perspective on things. And maybe they'll listen to you, because I truly believe this. I said this a while back, and I think I said it to myself. I didn't say it out loud. And this is the first time I think I am going to say it out loud. I said, men may run the world, but women control it. So I'm going to let you close it out.
Well, I don't know if there's a whole lot more than I can add, except for maybe piggyback off the things that you guys have already said. Clearly, be there for your veterans. They're the ones that have gotten you where you are at this moment, and also protect your players from themselves. There have been instances, because what happened with DeMar was a freak accident, but what goes on with these concussions, that's not necessarily a freak accident. And Tua being on the field and getting 3 different concussions this year, and the way that things went about in the first 2 ones was questionable, and they're under investigation now. Mike White being put into the game after he took 2 shots to a rib, and then they put him in again, and he left on a stretcher. Like that's just not safe. It's not good sense. Burrow has said that he can't remember half of his games because he's probably plays concussed most of the time. There are ways, obviously, to beat the concussion test. This is what we've been talking about just now. So if they take the test and they're already semi-concussed, then you can't really tell when they are or they're not. So I think that they have to, the NFL has created this image when they didn't want to address CTE and they didn't want to acknowledge it and everything that happened with all that. They created this environment where they tried to sweep things under the rug for a very long time. And I think that's what you have to get past. You have to be open. You have to admit where the flaws are at, and you have to admit that it's a work in progress until you figure it out. And then actually on a little more radical view, and this is probably biased because of what has affected my own family. I have to wonder, how many hits have they taken while they were in high school, junior high, and peewee before they even make it to the age 18 and they can make that decision of going into the game for themselves, knowing what they're getting into themselves. At that point, that's coaches and parents that are putting your kids on the line. Should it be flag football until you're able to make that decision yourself? It's a question. I don't know for sure if that's the answer to things. I don't think it'll ever happen. It won't happen in Texas, I'm sure, because of what high school football is here. But is that not a safer way to start things off? And then when you're 18 and you're able to make that decision for yourself, then you play contact. So I don't know. It's a question that's out there.
Oh, I'm with you. I don't think they should play tackle till they're 12. I mean, I know that's
what I'm saying. How many hits have they taken by the time they're 18? And it wasn't really necessarily their choice to be there.
Right. No, I mean, I think. Sorry, Eric. I'm just saying. I think 7, like anything under 12. I just think.
No, I get it.
No need for tackle. Sorry,
I get it. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Appreciate everybody in the comments tonight talking. Cortland, our man, Cortland Grimm from the halftime show. Jeremy B. Definitely appreciate Ray Lynn, our man Denzel, playmaker Darnell in the building as well. Thank you all for being a part of tonight's show. We will see y'all on Monday. Hopefully, like I said, by Friday, we have an answer. But as you see across the bottom, and I'm just going to show this young man again as we close out, this is the man that we're praying for. We want him back, and we want him back on the field. And if the Lord permits, that's what will happen. For all of us at the Sports Arena, much love to everybody. Everyone have a great night. Peace.